I think that our Chiddush was, that I'm very happy about, was to take something which is very seichel seemingly, unemotional, not personal thing, and turn it into something which has an emotional side, a personal side, and a not just seichel side. Some people are very, very good at the emotions. The kumzit, it's a good davening, chevra, hartzig, those words, Shabbos. And some people are good at the seichel side, learning, amuna in terms of proofs to believe in Hashem, or the such, etc. Divrei Torah. And Yiddishkeit really, really has both, definitely. Learning is a very, very intellectual experience, but it's also an emotional experience. Amuna is a very sickly thing, but it's also not just that. And you're really a complete Avodas Hashem, or even someone searching for completeness, is really looking to develop themselves in both areas. Ben Am L'Chavero, for sure. There's a sicklistic part of Ben Am L'Chavero, a seichel, a rationale, an idea, but then there's also heart, Rachaman Libaboy, etc. So what I was happy with was that when we think about Emunus Chachamim, I think when someone thinks about Emunus Chachamim, what registers is Emuna, belief. Belief is a belief. But the fact that the Maral used the word dveikus, that someone who has belief is dveikus, and therefore it's right to get the Torah because you're dveikus, and it seemed to be from the Pashup Shad and the Maral, the idea is to get the dveikus, to connection, that already seems something beyond just seichel. Okay, whether you want to call it emotion or not, that I'm not going to fight about, but it's definitely past just seichel. And the Kabbalah was feel connection. And it was interesting. One of the Chaverim that wrote that it was harder to connect to an Amora. I also found it harder to connect to an Amora. I had a little bit. I'm just trying to share my list a little. The Tana I thought was Rabbi Akiva, and the Mora I didn't really have anybody that jumped out. And the Rishon I think was Rashi, and the Achronim for me was the Gra and the Meshech Chochma. I could have said Rabbi Sosalanter also, but let's just talk about those two. Why Rashi is a Rishon? Because he really helps us everywhere. Really, every pasuk, every Gemara, it's incredible. Rashi's the width of where Rashi was in Chumash and in Nach, not little less than Nach, but still also in Nach, but definitely in Chumash. I think I might have mentioned last week, but I'll say it again. That I don't think it's mentioned somewhere, but Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, the incredible Rosh Yeshiva, the Mir Yeshiva, once was asking for a chumash, and Rav Lopiansky says this over. I think he was there, and someone brought it Rav Chaim a chumash without Rashi. He said, "No, that's not a chumash." Listen here carefully, friends. He asked for a chumash. He did not ask for a chumash with Rashi, but a chumash without Rashi, not a chumash. When you say chumash, you mean chumash with Rashi. That was what Chaim Shmulevitz said. So that Rashi is Rashi, right? So just think about it. And the Gra and the Meshech Chochma, I think it's really two things. Because for me, it's the insights that I've gained from both of them, but also the fact I see them as Rabbeim of mine. I want to talk about that, even though it's not really our topic, just I think it's an important thing to talk about. There's so many Svarim that are available today, and there's so many people we hear. You can hear it, but then there's something called a Rebbe. Right? And it's kind of like a little undefined what a Rebbe is. It's like undefined. What makes someone a Rebbe, what someone does. So this is part of my trying to bring some definition to that topic, is that when you just, let's say like Sfas Emes. I like Sfas Emes very much, and I've said many shurim in Sfas Emes, and I turn to it, but I don't consider it like a Rebbe of mine, meaning to me, like a Sfas Emes is like a great sefer to learn, great ideas, but it's not necessarily obligating me. I don't feel like obligated, like, oh, if Sfas Emes says something, I got to do it. Whereas with the Gra, in a certain way, I don't mean the Gra in Halacha, but the Gra and the Meshech Chochma, you see them as more like forming my Ashkafa. That's, I think that's like a lot what a Rebbe does. Someone who forms your Ashkafa, the lines that you operate in. There are a lot of ways to understand the Torah. Shivim Panim LaTorah, there's 70 true ways of understanding the Torah, a lot of untrue ways to understand the Torah, but there's 70 true ways to understand the Torah. Right? And it's not only your way, not only your Rebbe's way, but a Rebbe means something which is more defined. Anyway, but That's what I think. So it means when I read a Meshech Chochmah, I feel like, oh wow, that has to be part of my Ashkava generally. Generally, if you don't understand, you understand it. But but um, but what I do want to talk about, that's why I felt connection to them, is why I felt connection to Rabbi Akiva. And here's a point which was interesting. It's really because of his life story. It's not so much because of what he said. Like I like Rabbi Akiva's pshatim better than Rabbi Yossi Galili, better than Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. That like whereas opposed with the Gra, it is like that. The Gra and the Meshech Chochmah, for sure, it's like that. It's like, oh, the Meshech Chochmah, that's on a pedestal by me. So it's not because Rabbi Akiva's on a pedestal. It's more his life story. Now, why do I share that? I share that because I share that because I think that's important for us to make, if we want to get more personal with Torah scholars of other generations. It can be, there's two ways to do it. There's his Divrei Torah really resonate by me, or they really form me, and they are really important to me. I've heard so many insights from. I'm really touched by, really speaks to me, seems truthful to me, etc. Or it's the story. I relate to the story a lot, and the story moves me, and that's okay because again, that's also a way to connect. It might be the better way to connect is through the ideas, but it's definitely a form. When you hear a speaker speak and you really feel his story touches you, and you feel connected to that person, that's connection. So I think that's also a way to connect to Chacham. And I think here's what I want to bring out. The Chiddush, I think we all understand that a way to connect to Torah scholars through their ideas. But I think that this focused me a little bit, and I hope some of those listening and working on this stuff, maybe that also felt that it's that another way to relate to the person, you relate to his story. And that's okay. Because again, ultimately the idea is to relate to Rabbi Akiva's Torah. But if the way you relate to his Torah is because, I relate to his story, he was some 40 years old, and he went to learn, and he went to a little cheder, and he was sitting at a small little desk, and he had this wonderful wife who pushed him, and he became the Rabbi Shel Yisrael, and then he lost 24,000 Talmidim, and he started over again. It's so inspiring. That's connection, right? That's a form of connection. That's a bechina, that's an aspect of connection. So in other words, friends, there's more than one way to feel connected to Chachmei Yisrael. You can feel connected to Chachmei Yisrael just because I'd say there are three or four ways we could say. They're just like they're the bearers of my Masorah. Our Masorah is built on these people that spend all their waking days trying to study the Torah and keep Hashem's will, and I feel connected to that. Or I feel connected to their specific words and lessons, or I feel connected to their story. And there might be other ways, right? But I connect to them because the transmission is through them. I connect to them because I connect to their Divrei Torah and ideas. I connect to them because I connect to their story. Those are all ways of connecting to them. And that's what the Maharal taught. The more you connect, the more you can be Tone of the Torah through them. Like that example I gave about me with my friend who's a little smarter than me, but I still understood the Rebbe more than he did because of my connection. Amazing. I want to give two Makaras, and I want to get to the next point about in Hasidic in Lithuanian literature about. I don't know if did I give both these? I said the Rav Chatzkel Sarna over already. So I'll tell you, it's a topic to me in general. Like I was happy to run into this because for years I've had like a little angst, if you will, or not even angst, a little bit like more of a question. The Hasidic Svarim, in Hasidus B'chalal. I think one thing that everybody knows about Hasidus is that Hasidus is very into connection to tzaddikim. It's really emphasized in Breslov. You go to the Uman and things like that, but all the Hasidus is around that much, 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 much more than in Lithuanian yeshivas. The words dvekus to tzaddikim, dvekus to is not a word which you hear so much. So maybe it doesn't exist at all. It does. I'll tell you two sources that I have about it in non-Hasidic literature. I'm sure there are more. These are just two I found. One is that in the Mesilas Yesharim, the pashtus in the Mesilas Yesharim, the way it sounds is like that every member of Klal Yisrael can reach a certain level called tzaddik, right? But there's another level called chassid, which a person can't reach. That's what it sounds like in one place. In another place, it sounds like everybody can reach the level of chassid. Not important for us to right now define what tzaddik is and what chassid is. The point is that there's a difference. There's a lower level called tzaddik, and there's a higher level called chassid. Right? I know chassid is the opposite, right? The tzaddik is on a higher level than the chassidim. Okay, but not lo kashur. So we're talking about tzaddik and chassid. So you have the tzaddik on a lower level, and then the chassid is on a higher level. And not everybody is right to be a chassid. Not everybody's right to be a chassid, right? But in one place, it sounds like everybody's right to be a chassid. So how do you deal with that stira? So Rav Chatzkel Sarna, a Lithuanian Rosh Yeshiva, if there ever was one, right? Let's just place him. He was one of the Talmidim Mufhakim of the Altiv Slobodka, a little less well known to American Jewry because of an Israel Jewry, but he was really a very, very important Talmud of the Altiv Slobodka. He was an Adam Gadol Ma'od, and he was in Hebron that was destroyed, and then he was really the person who refounded the yeshiva most in Gula, now in Givat Mordechai, one of the greatest yeshivas in Eretz Yisrael, called Hebron Yeshiva. But it was really Rav Chatzkel Sarna was the Rosh Yeshiva and the main force of the yeshiva. There are other Rosh Yeshiva, but he was the main one. And what Hebron is today is a lot because of him. And he obviously brought Altus Levadka to Eretz Yisrael, etc. I mean, the Alter Slobodka himself came to Eretz Yisrael, but I mean to today's Torah world, right? The Alter was Nifter in 26, and the pogroms were in 29, etc. Then the Yeshiva came back, usually in 35 or 36, and Rav Chatzkel Sarna really was Yeshiva 25 or 30 years. The only time my Rebbe Blachman was in Yeshiva when he was an old man already. So, and people used to shudder when they would think about Rav Chatzkel Sarna. It was very, very great. Anyway, so Rav Chatzkel Sarna has, friends, notes on Mesilas Yesharim, and he says he deals with this stira. He's the one who showed me this stira, and he says the difference is if you is through kesher to Talmidei Chacham or kesher to tzaddikim. Yes, some people are built to only be on a level of a tzaddik, not a chassid. In another place, it's mashma you can go higher. That's through the connection to tzaddikim. The connection to tzaddikim can take you to a whole different level than you would have reached on your own. That's one source. The other source is the Ramchal. I wanted to look it up. I didn't get a chance to look it up today. Very busy day. But the Ramchal writes in Derech Hashem. The Ramchal writes in Derech Hashem that the Ramchal writes in Derech Hashem that Kadosh Baruch Hu, it happens to be in general a very, very, very meaningful part of Derech Hashem, where the Ramchal writes how Kadosh Baruch Hu has figured out many ways to try to help us get to the end. Yeah. Like Gehenna is really a chesed. It means even if you didn't make it in your lifetime, so Hashem gives this. It's not a pleasant way. It's not a comforting way to make it there. But the other thing for a person to have his sins with him for eternity is worse. So Kadosh Baruch created Gehenna, Gilgul, and another thing is what basically his lashon is. Kadosh Baruch created a system shemiktzas anashim yoel miktzasam, that some souls can elevate other souls. It's not Hasidus. This is the Ramchal, the Derech Hashem. Some souls can elevate other souls, and through the connection, right, the lower level person connects to the higher level person. That will also get him to make it to Olam Haba, get him to Olam Neshamas, whatever level he's talking about there in Ramchal, which is really another amazing source. Listen to this. This is such a good example why you have to learn what we call Panimis Torah, deeper levels of Torah, because when you see the idea of Arvus in Torah, it's really usually talking about in terms of Onish. In V'kashlu ish ba'achiv is a pasuk in B'chukosa in the close. V'kashlu, one person will be trip over the other. We have the parsha of Achan and Yeshua, right? We're tripping each other up. This starts Lashem Elokeinu Niglos Lanu Leni Ad Olam. That's Arvus according to the Orach Chaim. That means we're responsible, and it's always destruction. So one could think, the whole business of Arvus, Al-Pi Torah, is all negative. So the Ramchal, Al-Pi Pnimius, explains, no, that's not the way it works. The way it works is that really the souls are connected. And listen carefully, the reason HaKadosh Baruch Hu connected the souls is in order that one soul can elevate another soul. Now, once that connection is there, so then already it can work in a negative way also, but the system was set up for our benefit. It's like I tell you, look, I want every kid in the class to benefit from the tiyul, and therefore I'm putting all the less Geshmak kids with the Geshmak kids, etc., and the top is everybody should have a good time. Now, once that's the situation, if people don't take responsibility for each other, there's going to be a punishment. Punishment is just the result, but not the point. But anyway, friends, those are two sources. Two sources I have. They have other ones, but those are my two central sources where you see non-Hasidic literature, the idea of Dveikus at Tzaddikim. But now we have another one. Our third source is this Maral. The Maral says the idea of Amunis Chachamim is Dveikus to Chachamim. So you have that, right? How do we do this? I think it's words like believing in them. That's what the Maral teaches. Loving them. Right? It's an Indian. You should love the Gra. You should love your Rabbeim. You should love the connections you have. You should love Chachmei Yisrael. You should love the Chazon. You should love Moshe Feinstein. You should have learning their words is connection, believing in them is connection, loving them is connection. All those things are connecting. And that's very, very important. The more a person feels that, all that stuff. Okay. I want to keep moving for a second. We have, let's say, 10 minutes left. I didn't see another way to go in that sugya, and I want to touch. Where said that he was to be sharp with his son because right. Rabbeinu Kaddish said he was sharper because he saw the back of Rabbi Meir, right? Exactly. So that's for sure. So there's many, many other sources, though just some that move me in non-Hasidic literature. I don't know if I mentioned this before. I'm waiting for someone, a Litvak, to write more and to explain a little bit and how to do it. Like we touched on it a little bit, and we went much further than the average, Lithuanian did in this sugya. But I would like to see I want to see like some like Revolver or something, like someone discuss it. They talk about Shemesh Chachamim, so maybe that's what they mean. But I'd like to see this topic explained a little bit more from a non-Hasidic, nothing against Hasidus. It's just be interesting to see in the Lithuanian literature more about it. Okay, I've been waiting for that for years. Okay, so Rabosai, the next thing is Kabbalas Yisurim. I'm jumping over that one. I think it's like such a big topic, Yisurim in general. But the next one I want to talk about, which is Makir Makomo. Recognizing your place. Another one of the Kinyanei HaTorah is to recognize your place. Okay, what's the idea of that? So they're different pshatim, but we're going to talk about and focus on one way of being Makir Makomo, recognizing your place. So the Tiferes Yisrael says, Mida Shifluso, you recognize your low state, right? And the Medrash Shmuel continues with that theme, and it says like the is like not saying you're svarim if they got meno, right? Makir, to know your place, like to know your place. You're amongst really, really wise people. Shut up and listen. Be appropriate. That means to recognize my place. I'm not their true chachamim. I'm at a wedding, and I'm sitting at a table, and there's some really great rabbanim there. Like I can sit quietly and ask questions, and I don't have to express my opinion about 10 different things, and I'll just sit quietly and learn from them, right? That's Makir Makomo. Lo yeshiv l'malav makom gavoa. I don't sit necessarily in a chashuv place. So that's the mahalach. Makir Makomo. I think I'm calling this a pashup shot. That the idea of Makir Makomo is having like anivus. So recognize your place. You know your place. Okay. But I want to bring the Maral who's going that way, but add something, Kedarko, which really takes it in a deeper way. Shodeh ma'aloso v'chesrono. It says the Maral, your Ma'alo and your Chisaron. You know both. Makomo isn't just, your lowly place. Your place means you know your place. So what does it mean to know your place? And why is this one of the Kinyanei HaTorah? So Maral is so amazing. Shiodea ma'aloso, he knows his level. The chesronon, he also knows his downsides. Avli min toa, but he makes a mistake. Ain't a royal Torah. Shu emes. Makir Makomo, someone who's not a Makir Makomo is not kosher to Torah. And if you're not, is not kosher to emes. And if you're not kosher to emes, you can't be kosher to Torah. So beautiful. So that's the idea. Again, listen carefully. We could have learned, and there is a way to learn, that it's really just like a nava again. Makir Makom means anivas. We had a nava though already, right? A nava, for sure you need a nava for Torah. Maral is saying Makir Makom isn't just mashma, your low place. It's your honest place. And your honest place has two parts. My honest place is my maila. My honest place is my chisaron. And if I don't know that, I'm not kosher to truth. A person walks around who has real leadership skills. He said, I can't, a person walks around thinking like, I have nothing to tell my family, nothing to tell my children, no hashkafa to give them. I can't lead my wife in any which way or form, right? Is that true? That's true. No one wants to listen to you? Someone thinks that I can't ever be makar of anybody. I can't ever say a good, smart word. That's you're living a false life. Someone thinks they have no milas. I'm just a zero. It's a false life. It's not what it's about. So you're not makir makom. You're not making the other way. Someone who takes his miles and blows them up. I'm the gadol hador. I'm the greatest, one of the greatest Torah scholars alive. Like, why, I should get every shlishi. I should be the Masada Kedushin of every wedding. I should be called on for every podcast. That my opinion should be weighted and a thing like that. How come not everybody's giving me covenant shul? You're also not makir makom. You don't get it. You're not honest. So, but the point is, it's not pasha to makir makomo, right? To be emistic with yourself, to be true with yourself, and know solidly what you're accomplishing and what you can accomplish, and your milo, what you're good at, and to know what you're not good at. And when you don't have that, then you're not crushing the Torah's emes, right? This is one of it's a seguli thing, right? There's other aspects to it which we're gonna talk about, but this is what I want to focus now. It's like Torah is emes. Are you emistic about yourself? There's two ways to be very false about yourself. I cannot know my chisaron. You don't realize that you're wasting time, or you don't realize you don't know certain things. You don't realize that you don't have the personality to lead. You don't realize that people aren't following you. Whatever it is, right? But also, you don't realize the mind that you have. That's not epistic. You don't realize you should be taking. You don't realize that you should be XYZing. You don't realize your tefillah makes a difference. You don't realize that when you come to shul on time, it moves people. You don't realize that you could be a ruchnistic leader in some small way, etc. You don't realize that your consideration, your care, it's knowing yourself really well and being honest with yourself. That's makir makom, my makom, my true place, my mile, my chisaron. And we don't have that. It's not amistic. So I thought it was a very, very amazing moral, right? Yes,
Why are we calling it seguli? In other words, I understood it that if Torah is the world of truth, and a
right.
non-truthful person is not shaykh to that world.
Right, that's what I mean. I should have called it seguli. It's more this, meaning it's not therefore I learn better. That's what I meant. It's not functional, therefore I learn better. Because I'm not it's in the right, the way I usually speak about it is like it's functional that if I have be a chain, I'll learn more hours, or that's what I meant by schooling, a light schooling, not like a school, but meaning it's shaykhus too, right? That's the let's say another side. Okay, this is great. The Maharal is so. I repeat, I think I've said this before. Rabbi said what the Rishonim did for halacha, the Maharal did for Agadata. He feels so much like he gets into the kishkas of things, Because let's say the other perushim we said, there's more just like makir makom, meaning you're shiftless. Be makir, you're shiftless. Then it's aniva. So what was the chiddush? No, makir makom is the whole thing. It's about not being emistic, not about shiftless. It's about emis. You got to be truthful. So here's the Kabbalah. I think it's a good Kabbalah. Siyad Dishma we got today for everybody. And the Kabbalah is to find 5 ways over the week to think about it that you're faking yourself out, either by underdoing or overdoing your value or greatness. Right? Dig deep. We're all it's a hard thing when you really want to be emistic with yourself, right? Like how am I faking myself out? Where am I taking myself too seriously? Where am I not taking myself seriously enough? Is there something else I should be doing in life because I really have more ability or weight or clout than I think I have? Should I? It's hard. It's a deep thing, but that's why I want to dive right in. Think of 5 ways over the week. It takes time. How much time does it take? Kol echad, but it has to be on your mind a little bit. And think, where am I amakir makomo? Like, what is my place? Where am I not really being honest with myself? Where am I not stepping up? It could be a very subtle thing. It might be with your child, it might be with a cousin, it might be with a talmid, it might be with a talmidah, it might be with a wife, it might be where am I not, or where am I too stepping up? Like where do I think like where's my gaiva, where's my ego pushing me not to see myself honestly, take myself too seriously, or not take other people seriously enough. Like that would be a certain example of not being makir makomo. I don't think I need to hear anybody. Like I have it all worked out, basically. So there's no reason for me to ever hear any other Torah scholar, to hear any other opinion, or in my profession, I think I just know the most. I know, Last person I ever want to hear any but from him is my boss. Like, what does he have to tell me? I shudder when a coworker wants to offer an opinion or talking about something because I know he's not going to have, no way he's going to say anything as intelligent as what I have to say. That's not makom makoma. It means you're being sheked or not. Like, so I think that's a good thing. Five might be high, but I think we look, you could find where are ways, friends, that we're overdoing ourselves. That's not emistic. But where are ways we're underdoing ourselves? That's also not emistic. Yeah. And an emistic person knows. Moshe Feinstein didn't want to get a pace, or Moshe was on Mikol Adam. Moshe Feinstein, everybody knows, on Mikol Adam. Moshe didn't want to get a pacemaker because he was worried of possible being on the Sanhedrin. He knew that he was right. He thought he was hoping the Gula was going to come, and he thought he was right to be on the Sanhedrin. You just think about that. He knew he was from the top Gedolim in the generation. No one's an Evistic. Everybody's heard that. But think about it. I think it's good to drive at it. We all say it. Baruch Hashem in the Vaad, we have a chance to try to, find the things we say in ourselves. Where am I faking myself out? Where am I not taking myself serious enough? Where am I seeing myself as smaller than I am? Where am I seeing myself as bigger than I am? Latzlacha Rabbah. It's very good for the 3 weeks. 3 weeks all about truth. And Bezrat Hashem will be Zochah to be Makar Mekomenu. Latzlacha Rabbah. All the best. Shalom.
Yeah.